Gender is a fact. This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on earth. That is a fact.
Comedy, and comedians must be protected and never canceled. Our next guest was a canceled comedian, Josh Denny. Josh, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, brother. Not only canceled, but erased. So Food Network, this was just the other day, right? Like a month ago.
Yeah.
It said, you used to have a show on Food Network. Our working relationship with Josh, as if you didn't know that. I just want to make, did you know it used to have?
It did dawn on me, yes.
Okay, yeah. Our working relationship with Josh Denny ended years ago. We removed all episodes he hosted at that time. His views do not reflect our company values. We regret giving him a platform. They have to prove their shame to the woke mob. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And it's wild, especially to me, considering of all the, wild things I've joked about on Twitter over the years, that they chose the day I came out as a very pro-life, supporting the Texas abortion ban, pro-life conservative. That was the time they drew the line in the sand and had to erase me from their history and distance themselves. So I thought it was an interesting spot for them to pick. Their viewership had some pretty mixed reactions. I think it was overwhelmingly negative and probably not what they expected.
Wonder what their audience is at the Food Network. You know what I mean? Like, and this goes into a different conversation about woke companies, but who do they think they're appealing to with that?
Well,
as opposed to, I would imagine there's a lot of people in Texas who, are pro-life who watch the Food Network.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when they originally hired me to do the show many years ago, they were like, listen, you got to be careful. Our viewership is very conservative. And I was like, well, I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. And it turns out it's more of a problem for everybody on the executive side of the company than it actually is for the viewership.
TMZ, as if, who cares, right? But I don't know, maybe. I'm sure they got a lot of hits. Former Food Network star rails on women. Is that what you did? Because let's judge. Let's judge what was cancelable, all right? We just got John Gruden was just canceled. So we can judge whether or not that email he wrote 10 years ago is worthy of being fired. Is what you said, well, what did you say? Is it worthy of being fired over?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't fired. I hadn't been with them for a long time. It was they were more sort of disowning me after the fact because of this. But what's interesting is, and often a tool of mine as a comedian is, I don't necessarily say the offensive thing. I sort of suggest it. And then it's only offensive if it's something you yourself believe. And so, I used the line, I said, only would know they were pregnant after 6 weeks. And of course, the entire internet was outraged because apparently a lot of people out there identify as. And so what's interesting to me is that, again, for you to be offended by that joke, that's how you have to feel about yourself. And, so that was kind of the reaction. I think Food Network picked this one just for simple facts. The entire executive team over there are women. Everybody that pulls the strings and kind of heads the different departments at Food Network and Discovery and Scripps are all women. So I think this one just sort of struck a chord because I was coming out in support of life over the fake stance of choice. I mean, there are plenty of choices that don't result in ending a life. And so, as always, the argument gets conflated about trying to control women's bodies. And that's when I became a target of the Food Network.
What's Scripps? You have Food Network owned by Discovery.
Scripps was the parent company that owns Food Network, Travel Channel, and everything else. And then they were acquired by Discovery in 2017.
Okay. I love that you just Scripps keep going back and back.
Yeah. And it's amazing because there's all these different sort of secondary and tertiary companies that all have CEOs and they're all women. And so there's a CEO of Discovery and then a CEO of Scripps and then a president of Food Network. And so, there's a lot of these titles for people that essentially get in a room and decide things in a hive mind.
Yep. Can you speak to what I said in the beginning about the importance and the power of comedy in all times, but especially in an era like this?
Well, the Dave Chappelle clip is such a great example, right? I think what Dave is trying to do in this circumstance is open the dialogue between the Black community and the LGBTQ community and say, this is why we can't get on the same page, because you view your struggle as somehow more important than ours, and we view our struggle as more important than yours. And so where a lot of people, I feel like, miss the point is, rather than applaud Dave for trying to start that conversation, it's like they say in Moneyball, first one through the wall always gets bloody. They try to tear him down for it. And my retort was, the response should be a trans comedian having the guts to come out and actually talk about the separation between the Black community and the LGBTQ community from their perspective, and what the Black community's problems are in that exchange. But nobody has the guts on the other side to do that. And this is a prime example of what we always have predicted, that the woke will eventually eat itself. So now you have a man of color talking about why that struggle isn't as important to him, and sharing his free speech, First Amendment perspective, and doing it in a funny, sort of typical Dave way. And there is nobody on the other side of this discussion that's even capable of answering from a talent perspective, from a comedy perspective, and from an intelligent perspective. So they cry and they moan and they protest and they stage walkouts.
Wow, that was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like, subscribe, get more.